Teti, author of Lone Operator, who's been on here a lot. But you were just telling me about your course, WETC, and we talked about that a little before. I don't think we've talked about it before on the podcast, so let's just jump into that. You said I know that's why I didn't do it last week, is because you were working on that. But, yeah, dude, how's it going so far?
Dude, we ran our first class last weekend. It started Friday morning, 9 a.m. The students arrived, and they were there Friday night, Saturday night, and left Sunday. Grand slam home run. What was crazy, Tom, is we had the most eclectic group of people I think I've ever been in a class with. We had 2 anesthesiologists, a commercial fisherman whose boat sank out from underneath him, which is a cool story, a nurse, a husband and wife who were the husband's actually a preacher, 2 prior military guys, a dude that installed HVAC. I mean, it was white collar, blue collar mix. It's really eclectic group of folks. And then another woman. There was actually 2 ladies in the class from all over: Arizona, California, Pennsylvania. They flew in from everywhere. But anyway, what a cool course, dude. I'll be honest with you. I was blown away. Obviously, I've got about 8 pages of notes. You know, you're always morphing things and making things better. You know, I should have had one of these or 2 of these, whatever the case may be. But for the most part, dude, people were blown away. I don't want to get into too much detail about the course, but I can tell you this. The last module was apprehension avoidance and hostage survival. And we had some tears flowing, dude.
Jesus.
We had some tears flowing for sure.
Jesus.
Very intense. They said they'd never experienced anything like that in their life. And that was the whole purpose of it.
Yeah.
Was to give them an experience on this is not where you want to be.
Yeah.
Once you get to this point, you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah. Once the autopilot's saying terrain, pull up, then the plane's going into the mountain.
Yeah, it's really bad. So we got that going. We got another class in April that's booked solid. And now I'm just looking for locations to do this because the last location was at a Boy Scout camp. And now the Boy Scouts are going to start coming, and you can't run a course with the Boy Scout. I get it. They don't want to commingle people.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for other locations, but that's not a problem. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But so it went great, man. Went really, really cool. And the weather was beautiful. Range time was beautiful. And then also what I'm doing, and matter of fact, as soon as I get off the phone with you, I'm doing it's going to be about a 210-page manual of all of the information that was covered. So that way, when the students go home, they don't go, oh, damn, what did he think? Something about the ODA loop and, you know, about auditory is faster than visual. It's all going to be in there.
Okay.
So, I'm working on it right now. It should be done. I mean, I've been working on it for 6 months, pretty much, since we started thinking about doing this course. But now I'm putting it all dress, everything in the same font, everything's, you know, all that stuff to make it look pretty. And then my first Intel report is coming out today.
It's me.
On Sunday.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, so and the first report is going to be on I've got a couple people working on this with me, but the first report is going to be on what we consider the biggest internal threat to the country. Then next Sundays is going to be the greatest external threat. And then we're going to start getting to other stuff. But we wanted to get these 2 things out of the way first, Tom. Dude, you know as well as I do, people watch the news. It's slanted. None of this stuff is slanted. None of this is slanted. And some of it I don't even want to post and report because I don't like it. But it's the facts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's this. This is facts. This is hyperbole, or, you know, my opinion or somebody else's opinion. This is all source verified. You know, like, this is fact.
Yeah.
If it ain't fact, we're not reporting it.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's kind of like the doctor. You know, the doctor that's not nice to you tells you, it's like, hey, man, you're fat and you smoke cigarettes and you eat McDonald's. You're probably not going to survive to your daughter's wedding. No one wants to hear that, but I mean, like, that's the shit you need to hear.
Yes, and unfortunately, that's going to be in some of our reports, but that's why we're doing this.
Yeah,
it's nonpartisan, unbiased. facts. Like it's not CNN, Fox. We're data mining stuff, and then we're source verifying it through a 4-phase process. And at the end, if it comes out 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 is 4, then it's So so that comes out today. We're probably going to be posting it here in the next 2 hours. And so it's a subscription-based service, $9.99 a month, and you get 4 reports a month every Sunday for the week ending. And so it's something I wanted to do, and because I'm sick of watching the news, dude. I'm just so sick of it, man. I can't stand it. Everything is so politically slanted and so.
Well, it's not. It doesn't. And for the record, for everybody listening, this is. I'm not associated with Ted I's intel reports. I don't get anything from this. It's. I just don't want people to think I'm pocketing off this. But no, it's. I mean, it's the news. It's like. I don't mind if it's slanted. Like, I'm an adult. Just like you can go into social circles and hear people gossiping about your friends. Like, whatever. Yeah, sure, whatever. Fuck it. Water off a duck's back. Get over it. But when you're actually looking for an image of how the world is, well, then it goes from it's not that I mind, Donald Trump this or Joe Biden that. It's like, can I actually get, like, can you just tell me what's going on? I don't care which politician you like. What's going on in the South China Sea? What's going on in Portland? What's going on here? And you can't even get that. So it's not.
So you can plan, Tom. And that's the whole reason our subscribers, I'm doing this for them so they can plan. These aren't stupid people. They just don't have time to data mine all this information. It takes hours and hours and hours, and you know that.
Yeah.
So these are just people that want to know the facts. Give it to me straight. We're going to talk about the stock market in some of our reports. So we're going to talk about sometimes all kinds of different whatever is pertinent that week. Because I was a stockbroker. I trade cybercurrency. I can talk about Bitcoin. I mean, so a lot of people are like, what? Never. We're going to get into all that stuff, but it's going to be from a factual basis, not hyperbole and hype. Hey, buy this coin because I own it. It's not going to be none of that crap. None of it. We're going to talk about, policy and what's going on and threats, internal threats that are going on and, and stuff like that. So, and it's going to be very short, concise paragraphs, not like reading a freaking newspaper. People don't have time for that. It's going to be like boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? Very easy to read, very easy to digest. Probably take at the max 5 minutes to read the whole report.
Fuck yeah.
Because that's what people today don't have time, especially on a Sunday. They're with their families. Now, granted, they'll be getting it on a Sunday. They may read it Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, but people don't have the time. So we're making it very, very concise. Shrink down a piece of intel like this to the main bullet points. That's it.
Yeah. It's I was listening to General Flynn's book, Field of Fight.
Yep.
And he talks about how I think it was when McChrystal took over, but they're at this compound somewhere in Afghanistan, and on his first morning there, on McChrystal's first morning in charge, there was like a VB IED, like a huge IED, and it like went off right at the gate, and Flynn describes it as it felt like the whole base lifted up an inch, but it showed McChrystal's, I guess, dedication to being efficient, kind of what you're saying though, efficient with bullet points.
Right.
Is he said everyone got up and started like, do we got to go to a secure, do we got to go underground? McChrystal goes, stop, and like everyone stop running, sit down, and then he takes out the laser pointer and just keeps going over the bullet points. He's like, this is what we're doing today. There's like a mushroom cloud forming on the west side of the base, but it's kind of the same thing though, right? It's just halt, here are the bullet points, now go back to your daily programming.
Dude, if you've never read this book, and again, I've never worked with General McChrystal. I know of the man, obviously, JSOC commander, but he wrote a book called Team of Teams.
Okay, let me write that down.
It is absolutely one of the best books I ever read. And it's about how, when JSOC got over to Iraq, how they had to change their thought and the way they did business and the way the intel came in and how fast they could get at the teams on the ground to execute and prosecute targets. And amazing book. One of the best books I ever read. I've got so many chalk marks in it and, highlighted pieces. I probably got 100 gold nuggets out of it. Great book. Great book. Yeah, must read. And as a matter of fact, I got this book from one of your people.
I was about to say, let's segue.
Yeah, I'm starting to read this right here.
Yeah. Claire Lopez and I went over that the other day. Claire Lopez, for everybody listening, a CIA veteran, worked for 20 years there, and is beyond knowledgeable. I love talking to her because I feel stupid talking to her. But she talked about unrestricted warfare, I believe it was a paper published by, it was a master's thesis published by some Chinese
colonels, two of them.
In the 90s, I think.
Yes, and 94, I believe it is.
And it's this whole, it's admirable. It's you have to respect your enemy. What it is. It's unrestricted warfare, right? It's like, if you really want to turn it up a notch, you go to the NFL. We're going to exercise 7 days a week. Unrestricted warfare is like, we're going to use this untraceable HGH.
Oh yeah, dude. It's all about economic, military, propaganda, every facet of warfare, cyber warfare. They're into it all.
Yeah.
It's scary stuff. I literally just read the preface. I'm going to start reading it here soon, but yeah, it's by their own people, two colonels, and that did the book as their thesis together, a joint thesis. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting reading, to say the least.
Well, it's to me, it's interesting because I need to read it, but it seems to be a natural evolution. So let's go back to like the news, right? CNN, Fox, blah 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 blah. They're all biased. They're all slanted. Well, that forms a free market response to something like your intel drops, right?
That's right.
So when you have a hegemon, the United States, when you have 800 plus bases all over the world, the strongest military the world's ever seen, which I love and adore, which is human nature, to compete against it, and you're going to just Greeks, Romans, Genghis Khan, British, everyone wants to always surpass. Well, how are you going to surpass when you know you can't go toe-to-toe with the U.S. military? You're going to evolve, and just like your 5-minute bullet points, just like you're evolving to go against the news, this is their evolution. As far as I understand it, how do you take on a much more dominant force? Right. And you got to do unconventional, as Claire Lopez states, you got to do chemical warfare. Maybe you flood the border with fentanyl. Well, what would that do? Get a bunch of young people addicted. That's a bunch of people that aren't working, that aren't contributing to the GDP, which is used to fund the military. Do you use biological warfare? Do you use COVID? Do you use economic warfare, tariffs? Do you use intimidation? Taiwan, Hong Kong, South China Sea, cyber
and all
warfare.
Of the above.
Right? Yeah, they use TikTok. They use TikTok in Dallas to help foment riots. It's unrestricted, and
that's right. Yeah,
it's terrifying, but it
is. I got to be honest. I've never really been apprehensive about reading a book before, but I'm kind of scared of what's in these pages, what these gentlemen wrote about. But it's. I think it's a very good book for anyone that wants to get inside the heads of two colonels, military strategists for China, who would know better than those gentlemen. So,
yeah, Stealth War by Robert Spalding, General Spalding, and the 100-Year Marathon by former Deputy Secretary of Defense Michael Pillsbury. Yep. Those are the only two books I've ever read that were actually like unenjoyable, and not that they were dense reading, in that it was like. Ooh, it's one thing. Do
I really want to keep reading?
It's like, when you read about like a history of like the buildup of concentration camps. It's like when you watch a documentary about 9/11 and you hear stories about people like, I showed up to work at 8:05, and the entire time you're just like, it's like a horror movie you've seen before. You're like, get out, go. When you read about the buildup of the concentration camps in the early 30s in Germany, you're like, flee. You're like, go, leave. This is that, but it's happening right now. Yes. And it's not something that you just put down and you go, well, thank God that was Nazi Germany, and it's not now. And it's like, nope, it's right over there. It's creeping in.
It's scary stuff, dude. It is, for sure. And no doubt we can talk for hours and hours about this. But my closing thought on the whole thing is, knowledge is power. And unfortunately, a lot of people these days kind of just got their head in the sand and like, I'm ignoring everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump wasn't reelected. I can't do nothing about it. And I'm just going to put my head down. And
The end.
I don't think that's probably a very good tactic. I want to know what's going on so I can plan.
Mm-hmm.
And, without good intel, accurate, viable, actionable intel, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You need some information. Some.
Yeah. And I understand why they do unrestricted warfare. I don't agree with it, but I understand their tactic. I understand why people put their head in the sand. I mean, it's nice to be anesthetized. It's nice to not look at what's going on and to just wake up. Yeah. I don't approve it, but like I get it. It's for years after my brother committed suicide, I just didn't examine it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to think about it. It was bad. The end.
Right.
And then when I finally did, it was that much worse. But,
right.
Or it's kind of like the Titanic. It's like everyone knows about the band that kept playing on the Titanic.
Right.
But like the engineer, the main engineer, architect of the Titanic, he was last seen in like the main ballroom just having a glass of scotch, and he was like, I think for my next ship, and he was talking about like there could be improvements, and they were like, this dude has just checked out.
Oh yeah, he went down with the boat, man.
Which is like, again, I get it, but at the same time, if you're trying to survive, it's like, no, let's jump off the ship, let's try to find a piece of driftwood. I think if we get out of the water, we won't have hypothermia. It's stand and fight, and we can segue that into kind of the main thesis of your book, or at least what I believe to be your thesis, and it's that you are a survivor, and it's that you're not going to give up. That's how you start the book. That's how you go into it when you're talking about killing the boar. That's how you finish it when you're talking about like collapse. But we've got into it before, so
and that was chapter 3, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Was the warrior mindset, and a small little incident that happened to me. And just staying in the fight. And let me first preface this, man. I have never been wounded badly, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, my worst injury is probably slamming my middle finger in a Hilux truck during all of my tours. There have been better men more grievously wounded than I ever thought about. And I don't want to take anything away from them, but it was just, I talked about it in my book because I could see, even with a minor wound, which was minor, the medic actually went in with a pair of tweezers and pulled the casing out of my shin. That's like, here, put a Band-Aid on it, that kind of thing.
Out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Unwad your panties and quit crying, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is, though, it can quickly, when kind of reality sets in, like, wow, somebody actually just shot at my ass. And, and what had happened was a round went underneath one of our vehicles. And I thought that I would get, and it was gravel. Mm-hmm. And so I thought possibly the round hit a piece of, rock that hit me. And that's basically what I thought it was. Until I looked down, I saw a very small, hole in my BDU bottoms and a little drop of blood. And I'm like, oh, wow, I think I was actually hit with a round. But then I thought, man, there's no way that was a 7.62 by 39. And what it was just a casing. It tore part of the casing off, and the casing hit me. Anyway, but the whole point of that chapter and, the takeaway is, you got to stay in the fight. Mm-hmm. There's no timeouts. I couldn't go, hey, hold on a second. I think I just got hit with something. And of course, your adrenaline's flowing, but it's that mindset, that warrior mindset. But the sad thing, Tom, is that, and I'm sure you've talked to Dale about this too, it's an overplayed term. Warrior mindset. And everybody, kind of acknowledges that term applies to the military or to law enforcement, when in fact, it don't. Mm-hmm. It applies to everybody, mm-hmm. whether you're a stay-home mom or, some dudes, some super high-speed spec op units. It doesn't apply to just one person. And it's not just aggression, warrior mindset. It's more than that. It is being able to maintain your critical thinking skills under stress. It's being able to stay in the fight if you're injured. and not call a timeout. Now, granted, if you're grievously wounded, you just got stitched across the chest and took, 4 rounds center mass, and one just busted your heart, you're probably not going to stay in the fight too long. But I'm talking about, nicks and wounds are like, oh, I'm bleeding, but you can still fight, but you don't let that, get into your head. We're like, wow, somebody just shot me, and you can still fight. Mm-hmm. Not like, oh, that kind of thing. And that takes, I'll tell you from my personal experience, I got fucking mad as shit. It pissed me off. I'm like, motherfucker, like, really? Yeah. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was mad as hell, that I actually got nicked. I'm sure that is a natural reaction for a lot of guys, but I was very, very lucky. But the whole thing is just staying in the fight, maintaining, your critical thinking skills under extreme stress. And there's a really good saying, like, especially in combat, you can't let the situation manage you. You manage the situation. Mm-hmm. Because that which becomes unmanageable in combat usually turns out to be a really bad situation. Yeah. So you've got to manage that situation perpetually all the time. You cannot let your guard down. And that's part of it too,
Yeah. Yeah, it's letting a controlled bonfire turn into a forest fire. You start freaking, oh fuck! It's
You got to keep it. It's so. I say it in my book, and matter of fact, I taught it in the last WETC course. I kept going like this. This is a thinking man's game. It don't take a whole lot to teach someone how to do this, right? Mm-hmm. You give me enough ammo and a range and enough time with you, and I can teach you to do this pretty darn good. Yeah. And it's really hard to teach people is maintaining that, critical thinking under stress. You're not panicking. And that's one of the things I really, really noticed, the last group of guys I served with. I had a chance to work with, a multitude of different units, British SAS, Australian SAS, CAG, Dev Group, JTF2. And one of the things that, like, this common denominator that I saw with these guys in the unit I was in is, even when things were going bad, there was nobody screaming over the radios. Ah! There was none of that. Okay. None of it, ever. I don't remember one time anyone ever losing their cool, and just losing their, and that's a tough thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's your natural reaction to high stress. But that won't get you anywhere, because once somebody starts screaming and yelling like that it's almost like a cancer. Absolutely. It starts, and I've watched videos and other things, and it's like, that's not where you want to be. Yeah. Once your leadership starts panicking and start, your team leader or assault force team, whatever the case may be, breakdown. It's gonna rattle everyone. Like, damn, Tom's rattled. Well, shit, better be rattled too. Yeah, it's Mike Durant actually talks about that in his book. Really? There's a book, Black Hawk Down, but his book, In the Company of Heroes, which is like, you wouldn't know it's the same. They're talking about the same scenario. They're completely polar opposite versions of the same event. It's crazy. One is like this. His is this very like slow read, almost philosophical take on it. The other is like your Rambo, and then we tag this guy, and then we tag that guy. You wouldn't know it's about Mogadishu, but he does talk about when Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart, the 2 Delta Force snipers that posthumously received the Medal of Honor for defending his Black Hawk. He talks about how the way he describes them, I mean, I don't think he was trying to do this, but he couldn't make them sound more badass. But what he does is he describes them. He goes, those 2 showed up, and he goes, like they were like a gay couple or something. It's just 2 guys. He goes, like they're going for a walk on a Sunday afternoon in a park. They show up and they're like, Mike, how you doing? He's like, I think my back's broken. And he goes, and I think his words were, and as if there's no particular rush, like they were scanning like their backyard for, we should put a patio there. He says like Shugart had his hands on his hips, and Gordon's pointing around, and he goes, what they're pointing at is like fields of fire. But he goes, you'd think that they're walking in Central Park on an autumn evening, just going, look over there, look. He goes, but like they were just like bleeding cool. It was like Fonzie or Elvis. They were just like, there's bullets whizzing by, and they're like, so we're gonna go there, we're gonna go there. Then he looks at Mike and he's like, all right, so we're gonna put you over here.
and just nonchalantly, and we're going to fight off this entire city of Somalis. But he said that had such an effect on him because there's this leadership that comes in, everyone else in the chopper's dead, is face planted in the middle of a city, and everything's deteriorating, and they show up and they're like, how you doing, Mike? And they're like, let's go there, let's go there, let's go there. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, let's do that. As if the next thing they're going to say is, oh, we've got a great dinner back home. But that's kind of what you're saying.
I understand those people that are listening. Look, those guys were highly seasoned, highly experienced operators. That wasn't their first rodeo.
No.
And that's not the way anyone is going to be in a situation, especially like in Mogadishu. I wasn't there. I had to work with two guys that were there. And these were, matter of fact, the dude that I ended up doing that E&E with.
Well, that's what I was,
He was one of the dudes that was there. And the entire time that we were on the run, he was just like, matter of factly, put that round in your pocket.
Well, that's
what you got. It's a very, dude, it's almost like you're at a business meeting. It's just like, it's business. It's like you're not getting emotional. I can't remember what philosopher who said this. I don't know if it was Sun Tzu, but controlling your emotions is like the ultimate accomplishment for a human being. Like if you can overcome your emotions, which is very difficult, you have ascended to a very high level when you're able to just.
Yeah, it's like he's like a king can conquer 1,000 armies, but a lord can conquer himself.
Yep.
And
there you go, something like that. I figured, it's difficult, guys. It sounds easy, but when your adrenaline's pumping and people were dying, in that situation, and people were dying, that's just a testament to not only having the right guys for the right job, obviously, but just the sheer fact that how units like that train, and they train right to the edge and try to make it as realistic as possible, because when it does happen, you're going to fight just like you've been training. Like 99.9%. Like there may be a little thing, but if you train like you're going to fight, and I talk about that in the Wet Sea course, why are we doing this? Why am I making you suffer right now a little bit? And I made them suffer. The first morning, they suffered. I'm not going to lie to you. But to the man and the woman, they were like, wow. Like, yep, sure looks different on TV. I'm like, yep, doesn't it? Amazing what a camera can do. And, this sucks. From 1 to 10, you're at about a 9. But yeah, you've got to, and I talk about that in the book, you've got to train like you're going to fight. And I was very fortunate being in the unit I was in, where they had an unlimited budget. And, I pretty much, if they wanted me to learn how to play basketball, they would have hired Michael Jordan. So a lot of people, even regular soft guys, SF and SEAL team guys, they get great training. But when you have a budget like that, where like someone's not going to go, how much is that going to cost to go train with so-and-so? I'll just go ahead.
It's just, the card.
Don't even blink an eye.
The card swipes. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and so, but the third chapter of my book was basically about that incident and just staying focused and not getting rattled. And again, guys, you've probably cut yourself worse shaving than I was bleeding. Okay. So it pissed me off that I actually got close to being shot. And that actually refocused me more than anything else. It just upset me that one of the bad guys actually almost got me, and I don't talk about it in the book, but I was in Iraq in a cab. We were doing things, a lot of cabs over there. So we used cabs, drive around and whatnot. And I was sitting in the back seat one day. It was one of my buddies driving, dude up front, and I was sitting behind the passenger. And we were driving through the carotid district of Baghdad, which was one of the crappier places, heading towards the airport, actually. And I heard one run, boom, go off, and I looked down at the door. I heard something hit the door, and I looked, and there was a little hole with a little puff of smoke coming out of it, and it went right through the door, and it missed my vest. And dude, it was Yeah, I mean, missed me. It actually nicked the front of my M4 mags, and then I had pistol mags in front of them, and it actually nicked. But as a matter of fact, I have the magazine. Yeah, I mean, it was that close. If we'd have been driving a half a mile an hour faster, it would have been a through and through shot. Those are the kind of things that will even rattle your cage even more because you didn't get hurt. But if you were, either standing a little bit forward this way or you'd have been dead.
Yeah.
At least for me, that's the stuff that I thought about later. After the adrenaline kind of wears off, you're like, holy shit, if I'd have been standing 2 feet to my right.
Yeah. Lights out.
Yeah, game over. A round hit the wall. Like I remember a round hitting a wall. Literally, it would have probably hit me right at the tip of the nose, dude. It was like right. I just looked at pow, and I thought, man, if I was just standing,
done.
Oh yeah, I would have been all
done.
But again, and that's just a learning point. Is staying focused during that is difficult. And I'll be honest with you, man. I certainly wasn't the most experienced guy out there, and my ability to deal with it was going up as it happened. And it doesn't happen every day. Obviously, I mean, you hit a target and there's a dry hole, nothing happens, and you leave, and whatever. But as those events happen to you, you kind of just file them away in your tactical toolbox, and that's where this whole OODA loop comes in. When you observe, orient, decide to do something, your brain goes back to, oh, this has happened before, and this is how you're going to act. It cycles through your little Rolodex, and it's all. It gets into some crazy psychology that
it's one I was going to say real quick. We touched on Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart. Obviously, those guys are. I mean, they're the Olympics of dealing with that. But I think the general lesson still stands, and it's not, no one's going to benefit whether you're flustered because you had a different interviewer at your job at Walmart or whether you're in downtown Mogadishu. It's the same. But point is I was going to say, that loop of training. When the Patriots, who did they play? When they played the Seahawks, I think, in like 2014 or 15 or something, the Patriots won on basically the last play of the Super Bowl. The Seahawks could have just run it in, but what happened is one of the Patriots intercepted it on like the half-yard line, and it happened so quick. And you look at first, it seems like it's this fluke. You're like, how did he manage to intercept it on the goal line in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl? And it's just this whole absurd. But you go back in and you can see like interviews with them like the months after. That's just one of the plays that they had trained so many times where you're not looking at it, oh, we're in the Super Bowl, we're about to lose. It's just, hey, if he does A, I'm doing B. You see the quarterback go here, and all of a sudden the running back doesn't run. That means that you just have to. It's subconscious. That means you're going to take 3 steps to the left, and then it's basically the ball just lands on you, so it's not. Oh, I intercepted it in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. It's just that's something you've done in scrimmage a million times. It's a reflex, right? It's what. It's
the same exact thing. There's no difference.
Yeah.
It's no difference.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I love when I train. I mean, I love training people because I've got a passion for it. And when we, like this last WETC course, I guarantee you, if you interviewed any of these people, and I had 2 prior military guys in it, and they even said, I've never received so much information, realistic training in 3 days I did my entire career in the military.
Jesus Christ.
I really tried to make every aspect of it as real as possible so they could reflect back on it, and regurgitate that, yeah. And you reinforced, we reinforced some of the learning objectives with pain. Obviously not, intolerable pain, but uncomfortable, because one of the things I told them was you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And doesn't mean you gotta like it. It sucks, but there's a tolerance factor that you have to build into yourself, and the only way you do that is by doing it.
Yeah, it's
you got to do it.
Yeah, it's
you got to do it. And I told them this when I go to the gym, I work out, I lift. I'll go straight from the lifting area straight into the shower, take an ice cold hot shower, go swim, and when I get out, I go sit in a sauna, nice and warm. Right, I got my drink, I'm sweating. I get out, I'm nice and hot, right into an ice cold shower. Why? because it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It don't feel good.
Yeah.
And that is just one little thing that I do just to try to maintain that, for lack of a better word, that hard edge.
Mm-hmm.
Just like going for a run in the rain, or like the other day it was raining here, and I just went outside for a while, just walked around out in the rain, just got soaked.
Yeah, no, it's you
sucks.
No, but it's, we see it with like muscle, right? You work out, and then eventually, as that dumbbell becomes easier to curl, you bump it up, and then it hurts, sucks for a while. But what happens is, whereas in your mind it may seem like, why am I going through pain every day? Well, the reality is as a year goes by, all of a sudden you can now lift 50 pounds instead of 10 pounds.
That's right.
Well, when you take that, that's a physiological example, but if you convert it to a mental example, well, the thing that happens is, as you put yourself through this pain every day, when the real world comes knocking and someone dies, or you lose your job, or whatever, someone breaks into your house, okay, you're trained for this. And it's kind of the OODA loop. You're okay, it's sit with the pain. Don't freak out. Don't run away. Just, okay, let's sit with it. Let's examine it. Okay, I'm not dead, which means I can still win this thing. Right.
And that was the overriding point when I designed WETC, the Warriors Edge training course, was, I have 3 days with these people, and I will tell you, dude, the days were long, 14 hours every day. These people were dragging ass.
Mm-hmm.
Got to bed late, woke up early. But that is how I could fit so much content into the course, because it wasn't 8-hour training days, it was 14.
Mm-hmm.
So, but one of the overriding points was just realism and burning into them. What you see on TV isn't the way it is in real life. Yeah, whether it's getting into a high intensity armed confrontation and using a knife or a gun, all the things that go along with it, and the psychology that goes along with it, and what you're going to be feeling, what the adrenaline is going to do to you. All of this was simulated. Like it wasn't just me going blah 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 blah. We were actually in the weeds with this stuff. Mm-hmm. So they were like, "Oh wow, like I get it." Yeah. And then I would say, "You see how you're feeling right now? This isn't where you want to be."
No.
This isn't where you want to be. So that reinforces that particular module with a little bit of pain, a little bit of, that kind of sucked, And it worked, man. I'm telling you, you should see some of the reviews we got. It's unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. The reviews. We had each person fill out actually a little testimony. Yeah. And, but getting back to the book, I mean, the main thing is the chapter 3 was all just about that particular incident and talking about, the warrior mindset and what I have seen, actually, Tom, more so, not just with myself, but other guys that I've worked with, guys like Dale, like, what are their thoughts on the warrior mindset. And he'll tell you the same thing. It's not just about beating the dog shit out of somebody. He'll probably tell you the same exact thing I just said. It's all about critical thinking skills under pressure and being able to focus under pressure. And I remember I remember a long time ago is that you don't just stand there, right? When things are going bad, do something.
Yeah.
Pull security, do something, but don't just stand there. And unfortunately, when the crap is hitting the fan, you're going to get that fight, flight, or freeze syndrome. And it's probably going to be freeze because people aren't trained to run to the sounds of the gun unless you are trained to do that, which takes years. And you're either going to run or just stand there with your mouth hanging open like, and that's not where you want to be. Mm-hmm. Do something. And that all has to do with maintaining your cool and your critical thinking skills. And because we know, and as I do, like during the fog of war or any high intensity situation, your brain starts to short circuit. Mm-hmm. Right? You're taking in so much information. It's like the RAM in your computer is just like, that's it. Like you were saying, that's the stuff that you got to be very aware of and beware of that. Because when you max out the RAM in your computer, that's when you start getting tunnel vision, auditory exclusion, tachycardia, everything just goes just to the bed. And now you're you've taken yourself from a posture of this to being able to protect yourself and your guys to this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all part of the warrior mindset, dude. It's a multifaceted, multi-pronged thing. It's just not just kick ass, man. Just kick ass.
Well, I was gonna say is, and it seems to be that's the it's the those who suffer remember. I was gonna say with your course, and I know I said it only keep you for 40 minutes, so we'll wrap this up. But what you said about anyone can do this. You can teach anyone to shoot. You can be illiterate, and you can teach me how to hit a target. That's fine. So then the question comes, well, what's the takeaway from the course? I'm not going to go be in some tier 1 fast spec ops. And I think it's what you're saying is, it's what you take. Whether it's going to the gym and getting in a cold shower, whether it's being in Mogadishu, whether it's freaking out during a calculus test because you're trying to get into med school. The entire takeaway is no, you're probably never going to be in this situation, but it's that level-headed, okay, the bonfire's turning into a forest fire. Okay, we have contingency plans. Okay.
And exactly what you just did is taking that breath, combat breathing, big breath through the nose, on the range, halfway out, slow the heart rate down. That's all part of it. And you're absolutely right, 100%.
Yeah. Well, 100%. Fuck yeah. I said I wouldn't keep you over, so I won't. But lone operator, I'll put it in the description and the top comment. I'll also... give me a link so I can put up where people can go sign up for WETC if they're interested.
Yeah, I'll email you.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And
we're done. I'll send you an email.
Yeah, and we'll keep it a mystery, but to be determined for next week's activities. There's going to be some.
Yes, sir.
Probably won't be uploaded for a while.
We don't want to give the cat away yet, but I'm sure there'll be some good photos and video.
It'll be exciting. But,
yes, sir.
Joe Teti, as always, my friend. I love you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming on. And, till next time. I'll see you, man.
Thanks, Tom.
Take care. God bless.
Amen.
Peace.